Welcome to this week's festive edition of Property TV. You do not want to miss this episode because we'll be talking about the difference between salary and rent, 3 things you need to do before Christmas, and also a very special festive tree. So keep watching. So the Office of National Statistics have just released new data showing how much salary is paid on rents. And across the country, more than a quarter of a person's take-home salary is actually spent on rent. And actually in London, that goes up to 49% of a Londoner's salary goes on rent before anything else that they've got to pay out on. Now obviously across the regions there's wide variances, but certainly in the southeast, the east of England, the southwest, generally speaking more than a quarter of take-home salary is spent on rent before anything else is paid for, which obviously means that from the perspective of saving up for home ownership, it becomes even more difficult for tenants to do. However, good news is on the horizon. There is a movement right now, positioned by Lord Big, who founded the Big Issue, to start putting through tenant rental payments onto credit reports. What does this mean? We've talked about this in previous episodes. This basically means that when a tenant comes to apply for a mortgage, they'll actually be able to show those rental payments being paid, and that will help improve their credit score. So watch this space for more news on that. Now in this festive edition, we want to discuss what are the 3 things you should do before Christmas and going off on that festive break. The first one is make sure that you have checked your boilers and electrical circuits to make sure there's going to be no nasty surprises over the festive period. The second one is ensure there is some kind of emergency call-out procedure in place should a problem arise, so that then the tenants can get their issues resolved very, very quickly. And the third one, and most importantly, is make sure you've ordered your turnkey. And finally, we promised at the beginning of the episode we would do something particularly special for you, and here it is. So once a year, on the 24th of December, we're all familiar with the tale of Father Christmas or Santa Claus delivering his presents across the world. Now, he typically does that via his reindeer and sledge, but what does he use to get into the properties? You've guessed it, it's chimneys. So this week's very special edition is a short report on 5 things that you should know about chimneys. So the first one is, let's kick off with the history. So it wasn't until 1710 that the government actually said that there can be no more clay-built chimneys. And in fact, they all had to be rebuilt in brick because they kept setting on fire effectively. But even then, it took until the 18th century really for chimneys to become what they are known today. And in fact, Benjamin Franklin was known as the universal smoke doctor, which is an interesting little side fact for you, as well as the other accomplishments he did in the United States of America. But this all served to create the chimneys we now know and love, where we have a fireplace, you have the fire and it goes out through the chimney. But here's the next interesting piece. So the terms flue and chimney are often confused. So listen up kids, here's the definition. The flue is the piece of the chimney that actually takes all of the combustion out up into the atmosphere. The chimney itself is only generally the brick surround that goes around the clay pot or even steel pot, and generally has some kind of pot on the top that then allows that combustion to escape from the atmosphere. Now you may not know this, but there are 2 classes of chimney in the UK. The first one, built up until the 1960s, was the traditional one, which you could use with solid and gas fires. And the second one, which is more in vogue today, is more of the little metal cap that's seen on a lot of new build properties, which is generally linked in with a gas fire system. So there you know, now you have it. But there's more. Chimneys can actually be made of lots of different things. Here's some examples: stainless steel, concrete, pumice, clay, ceramic and even plastic. But obviously these different chimneys will serve different purposes, and a plastic one for instance is only going to be suitable for certain uses. Most of the others can be pretty much used for everything else. And masonry chimneys are often associated with concrete, pumice or clay. Another interesting fact. Now let's move on and look at the build. So chimneys generally do require foundations, but steel or ceramic flues do not. So depending on how the chimney is built, and certainly a lot of chimneys are built from brick, they will require some kind of foundations. And the final, most interesting point for you in our little whirlwind tour of the 5 interesting facts on chimneys, I hope you're still listening, is building regs. So if you're going to put in a new chimney, you will typically need building regulations for that and building control to come out and ensure that you're putting up the chimney safely, using the right materials, and also the flue and the vents out of the property are all working securely. So whenever anyone asks you what's the most interesting thing about Christmas, you'll now be able to tell them it's the 5 facts about chimneys. So that's all we've got time for on this week's episode of Property TV. We're going to be taking a much overdue and long awaited, anticipated festive break, and we'll be back in the new year with more scintillating, interesting information on Property TV. I hope to see you then, and please do keep watching the videos, sharing, liking and commenting, and we'll see you in the new year. That's all from me, and that's all from here. Goodbye.